Not really good. It feels like winter already. It's windy and really cold. So that's not the best weather possible. Yeah.
Yeah, we had snow today. Quite a lot of it too. Traffic's gone very crazy.
So I see more and more people are joining.
Yeah,
Then maybe a few more minutes.
for sure. So what were your first thoughts when you were asked to do this webinar?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What were your first thoughts when you were asked to do the webinar?
Actually, I thought that we could have prepared this webinar, like a few years ago. We had enough kind of experience and approaches and all that, but really want to make sure we did it with like hundreds and hundreds of clients. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that like now it feels like, even though every case is unique, every client is unique, industries, and there are that many variables, still, I feel like we have enough like expertise just to, share something that will work in like 90% of cases. So my first thought was like, okay, I have that much info to share. So I asked like Julia and the team, like how much time we have, like 1 hour, 40 minutes. So we're gonna just making sure we're gonna have enough to share everything we have on mind.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's good to have an overall, portfolio that can definitely back you up. You don't want to come off as wet behind the ears,
When we're preparing the presentation, I thought that, okay, like for every single sentence that we have, I do have some kind of real example of the client, like either kind of failing or doing everything right from the very beginning. So kind of that many examples today are not just kind of some fluffy things, like make sure, you're focusing on what you need or something, but everyone has a real kind of empirical evidence behind.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for joining. We're going to give the rest of the attendees a couple more minutes until they can all join. But at the meantime, hi, my name is Josh Pratt. I'm an account manager here at Belkins. And today joining us is the one, the only Alex Sribnyi. He's our managing director. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Hey, everyone. Yeah. As I've just told, a lot of you are just joining now. I just told that the idea of this webinar came up because we did have a lot of things to share, and we prepared something that we think can be useful, more or less universal for like 95% of cases and 95% of strategies that you're going to have. So something still maybe unique depending on what your approach is, what your targeted kind of audience is, what your industry is, but a lot of these you can use right off the bat for your kind of outreach purposes.
Perfect. Yeah, very excited to dive in deeper. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I guess we can start maybe.
Yeah, let's go ahead. All righty. Well, once again, thank you all for joining. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. As you probably know, today we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of email outreach. Wanted to just kind of give you the update 411, whatever you'd like to call it, on why we believe that we have the opportunity and the privilege to share about this topic. We at Belkins have been doing this for more than 4 years now. We've been doing email outreach. We specialize in lead generation. We are the #1 company in this industry on Clutch. So we're very excited to be able to share some of our experiences, some things that we've seen down the years that we've understood has actually kind of made this pattern to understanding what's successful, what's not successful, what to do, what not to do. So kind of wanted to start off with something that I love. Winston Churchill once said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts," which I can't agree with more. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, that sounds, I have nothing to add. Like Winston Churchill is definitely right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do believe that it's so important when you do make mistakes and when you do try something and it doesn't work, not to just give up and say, okay, this isn't for me. There's so many different things that you can test. There's so many different things you can analyze to understand maybe something's not working, but it's not the entire picture. Maybe it's one little thing in my big picture that just needs a little bit of tweaking to make my success more relevant. So, so agenda for today. We're going to be talking about what you should not be doing in the email outreach, what you want to do to improve your email outreach. We do have a bonus. And then towards the end, we do want to have some time of just question and answers. So I won't hold you here long. Let's go ahead and hop into it. So what not to do in email outreach. Incorrectly prepared strategy. So obviously strategy is the number one thing that you want to start with. You want to have an understanding that you do have a strategy in place. You want to understand that you're not only shooting for something that's short term, but you do want to have something that's actually longer term, understanding that what happens today is going to affect tomorrow and the day after and the month after and the year after, because it's not like you can just think of something for the next 3 months and then hope it continues to work, because there's going to be so many different moving parts that you have to take into consideration. Not engaging with the whole team while changing the course, that's also very important. We've had experiences with people that, we have a good strategy, but we don't correctly engage with our team. And we've understood that that has produced not as successful outcomes as could have possibly been. Not having a deadline for testing it, you got to test everything. And if you don't have a specific deadline in place, you just understand that, okay, it's been a month. I don't remember when we started testing this. And Alex, you couldn't agree more. I think, not having something in writing and understanding, okay, we test this for this amount of time. And then if it doesn't work, we get rid of it. What would you say?
Yeah, especially if you test a lot of things. So let's say, you feel like your template is perfect. Yeah. And you have been sending for like a week, and then nothing, comes from it. So you don't have any kind of substantial responses. And then you think, okay, I have like 5 options for changing the ICP. Maybe I should change the industry, the title, something else. And then you just, you tweak it, you forget when you did it, then you just keep going. And then you cannot even analyze, okay, on Monday, I did change kind of title. So now we're targeting, let's say C-level instead of kind of V-level. And then kind of next Monday, you should understand if something changed. So you just change one thing. And that's why we have this kind of number 6, testing many things at a time, that I want to highlight, because if you change everything right away and nothing works, so again, you're not sure where something is broken. So you choose one thing that you suppose is the most kind of crucial, then you tweak it, you give it like 1 week, depending on, what your campaign is, how many leads you have. And then 1 week after, you start seeing some results, or vice versa. You think, okay, nothing changed. Maybe it was not about the titles. Maybe it was about the industry. So here at Belkins, we do give like 1 week, 1 week and a half, at least. And then we gather the whole team and, and think what changed and how we can, improve further. And while having these meetings, we also analyze responses, because that's one of the best things that show you really, okay, I do have this approach. I feel like the value is clear. I feel like the audience is right. I am mailing them, and for some reason, a prospect respond back like, what do you even want from me? I don't understand the value, unsubscribe or something. Even though your email doesn't look spammy, still it gets some responses that obviously tell you that you're off, something is wrong. So that's why analyzing responses is really, really important. And I'm sure like Josh with as their team does it on a weekly and daily basis.
Yeah, just adding towards point 7, not analyzing responses. It's interesting because just recently I actually had a case where my SDR was analyzing the responses, and it ended up happening that we found that we were reaching out to a title that we didn't really want to reach out to. Not that they weren't necessarily the perfect title for the email being sent out, but it was just one of those titles that it's like, if you think about it long enough, maybe this person isn't really the right fit. Maybe this person really isn't the person that should be responding about this. So yeah, and I do also believe that it's important to set goals, because if you don't have any goals, if you don't have something to work for, you're just sitting there in a rut doing the same thing over and over again, hoping that something works. But when you understand, okay, we've got a goal, and not even the goal for like the bare minimum, but something that's, as we would say, reach to the sky. You want to get as so much and so many appointments as possible, that one, you're actually blowing the mind of your client because they were expecting one thing and they're getting more. And not only that, but your team is then more on fire, which then helps them to be more successful, to look at things very quickly and understand, okay, this is definitely something that is working. Let's maximize this. Take this one template, replace all the other templates that we're using, and just put that one template everywhere, so we understand this is all working perfectly. And I do understand, and I think, and I believe that being flexible is so important. There's so many times when you have something that works for a time, a month or maybe 2 months. And then for some reason, things just change. Whether you've tapped into a different industry, whether you've tapped into a different region, you understand, okay, this approach itself isn't working again. Like, it's not working like it was. What happened? And then that's once again, you go back to analyzing everything and understanding, okay, we have to look at what's different. And that could be the industry, which means we have to be flexible. If it's not working anymore, don't just keep, hitting your head against the wall, hoping that it's going to start working again. It's now, you have to definitely act now instead of later, when you're looking at, okay, we were supposed to get 10 appointments. We got 2. What happened? Everything worked 2 months ago. Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so before you just summarizing the strategy part. So before you start, you should think, with the whole team, like gather and like come up with a more or less, like plan for a week, for a few weeks, and at least understand, which direction you're moving towards. Then kick off, and then kind of have some kind of milestones, or just measure kind of every week, every month, kind of what's the progress and what should be changed.
Yeah. And you said something very important: sync with the team. The team, 9 times out of 10 will have something that maybe you didn't think of, because your head is just exploding from all the different strategies and ideas that you've come up with. And a lot of times it'll actually happen to me. Even I have a team call, and somebody on my team will say, what about this? And I'm like, you know what? I didn't even think about that. Why didn't I think about that? Well, because I got a million thoughts a second. So yeah, that's a great point. So the next portion would be ICP and leads. So in regards to what not to do when you're wanting to approach ICP and leads, purchasing a database, it can be good, but it can be very bad. And sometimes you get a database of leads that just, one, they don't have any kind of bounce check. You've got leads that you think are going to be good, and you put them all into your system, and all of a sudden you're coming back with bounce after bounce after bounce, which means even if you were to purchase a database, I would personally recommend never forget to actually put in a bounce check, because you don't know for sure what you're buying is actually what you need.
Yeah, and I want to add here, like, something that sounds kind of weird, but if you think about it more, then it makes more sense. So when you start, it's always better to have, some kind of leads that were kind of manually tailored, and why I'm telling this is because you may spend like weeks and days in creating template, and then coming up with some approach, and then kind of setting up your mailboxes and domains, making sure everything is kind of perfect. And then you purchase database, you start outreach, and you can never be sure how good it is. So basically, it can kind of, all the efforts you put into it, they don't make sense because, database is not good enough. Then when you have more kind of data, when you have more empirical evidence, you have, what open rate you should expect, what response rate you should expect, then, more or less what quality of responses you're getting on a daily and weekly basis. Then you can try, there are some tools in the market, there are some database in the market, then you can try some database and compare with what you had before and what you currently have. And in that case, if database, leads that you purchase bring you more or less same outcome and same kind of quality of appointments, responses, then why not? But at the beginning, when you're not sure, it's always better to start with kind of manually prepared leads.
So you can probably tell that we both really love doing this, and we've gotten so much into the conversation that I just actually saw a comment from Will. ICP, what is it? Thank you so much for that question. We totally forgot to even mention it. So ICP stands for Ideal Client Profile. So essentially who you want to target, who you want to reach out to. So thank you for the question. So Alex, using a shotgun approach, yes, no, why? What do you think?
Depends, but again, like same as the number one, to start with, definitely no, because when you start, you want to find kind of the best possible audience. So I would just, pick okay, what title I want to have on a call in front of me, what kind of company I'm going to have more success, talking with, what kind of niche probably I should target from the very beginning. So I would, at least at the beginning, like come up with our like perfect ideal customer profile, and then I would just hit there and see what I have. In case it works good, then we can we can have adding more and more counties, more and more countries, niches, and industries. But at the beginning, shotgun approach doesn't give you enough stats and doesn't give you enough statistics to move forward and then to have some conclusions and tweak it properly.
Yeah, especially adding to this with point 3, especially if you're only reaching out to like high level titles for enterprise companies. I mean, CEOs at, just enterprise level companies, very, very large, thousands and thousands of employees, half the time they don't even have the capability to even just check their own mailbox. Most likely they have their assistant checking their mailbox. So, just reaching out to them, maybe once in a while you get lucky, but overall, it's definitely better to find somebody that can pass you along to your higher level, C-level titles. So, and then, not searching for additional criteria. One of the things that I found really successful with a couple of my clients that I've worked with was when we had our templates and we wanted to personalize, but we'll obviously get into the templates a little bit later. But when you're personalizing, if you're going with the bare minimum, which we'll also talk about later, but imagine you're just taking a name, a last name, a title, the company, and then maybe the industry. If you don't have any kind of statistics, so if you're reaching out to a company and you're trying to help them get more website traffic, if you can actually find that additional information of what their current website traffic is and put that into the template itself and say, hey, just to show you that we really do want to meet up with you, we did our due diligence, we researched and found out that this is how much web traffic you've got. Here's how we can get that doubled. So I do think that adding additional criteria is so important and really helpful, honestly.
And just adding here that I've seen two different approaches to this. And first is people who are not adding anything. So template then sounds really generic. So, you can talk about yourself, that's good. But if, while researching, you can add some variables and then incorporate them into your email, that's going to surely bring you in more responses. But then I've seen another extreme case when one of the clients I've been working with before, they really pushed for having 10 variables in their template. So it really didn't make any sense. So then we just came up with conclusion that if you want to have a really personalized template, it's better than to manually craft it. Because if you really add 5 variables about title of the person, company, traffic, their whatever, CMS they're using, something else, then your template really doesn't sound natural and it doesn't sound good. And then at the very end, they were even thinking to add, their favorite soccer team or something they found their LinkedIn, and really it feels like, okay, you did your homework, but the template doesn't really look good, so it also doesn't help you. So it's better if you want to have a really personalized approach, then your SDR can come up with emails manually, and then that's gonna work.
Yeah. So point 5 is forgetting about a DNC list. So a DNC list is a do not contact list, or a suppression list, as we call it. I've had my share of clients that I've worked with where they say, no, we don't have any DNC list. It's fine. You can reach out to anyone. And we ended up writing an email to some specific person. And he said, hey, you don't remember me? We worked together for 3 years. And my mind is blown. My SDR's mind is blown. We're thinking, oh my gosh, how do we work with this now? And what do we do? Because, obviously the email was sent out trying to basically make an introduction. So yeah, having a suppression list is so important, because you do want to understand that, if you're having a company do what we do, you want that company to thrive. You don't want to just hand everything over and say, I don't care, as long as you get me appointments, because yeah, we can get the appointments, but we also want to do extra work on our side to understand, okay, we're not going to be reaching out to your current clients, people that you're maybe in communication with already, somebody that you worked with in the past that basically told you, go away, I don't want to ever work with you again. I mean, the list goes on. So DNC list is a must, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it really influences the quality and the approach that you may use. I did have a similar case, but then the client, was from Rhode Island, and the state itself is not that big. And they told, yeah, you can email the whole state. And then while emailing people, as you say, I didn't have a case when I worked with you for 3 years, but a lot of folks they responded as if, as if they know you. They say, so, and for that
Good to
case,
hear from you again.
yeah. It should be, kind of re-engage approach then, maybe more personalized approach. Maybe then it could divide these and then, okay, with some guys who worked before, some guys who emailed before, some guys, you're just nurturing. So for them, for each of these cases, it could be a different sequence and not just sending one email to everyone, even though the quality of those prospects and their knowledge of your product or service is so different. And then we have not doing A/B testing and not understanding who decision makers are. So these we slightly already discussed, and they are actually connected. So when you have for example, different offering you want to pitch, then for sure you should think, okay, do the same titles and same companies and from the same region and industries. Are they a fit for this offering, or maybe I should change the whole strategy? And then same with seniority. So if the size of the company is different, you should think, okay, is the CEO of the company right target or not really? So for those cases, you brainstorm with the team, you think what is feasible, and then you start the approach as you see fit.
And just to add on to that as well, with A/B testing and with, understanding who to reach out to with what templates, it is important to have different templates going out to specific titles if you have the capability, because pain points is a big thing. That's honestly one thing that really will help your conversion rate go up from all of your not interested to, yes, I'm interested, let's hop on a call. That's when you're really diving in deep and understanding, okay, this is the pain point that maybe the CFO might have or the director of finance. It's not going to be the same thing for the head of marketing. It's going to be completely different pain points. And so if you send a very generalized email to someone that's in marketing talking about the pain points of finance, they're going to be like, what's this? Like, how is this going to help me? So yeah, I completely agree with you, Alex. All right. So example of a bad ICP to start the campaign. So we're looking for companies that are hiring 10 plus people for remote roles in any of the categories in the image that is uploaded. Below are some companies that are our targets. For now, we just need a TAM. So right off the bat, this is the ICP. This is the entire ICP. A lot of red flags for me personally. I don't know, which titles I'm supposed to be reaching out to. I don't know which regions. As an example, Amazon. Amazon is all over the world. Should I be reaching out to Amazon in the United States? Should I be reaching out to Amazon in Europe? I mean, there's so much here that's missing that it's, yeah, of course you can start with this, but there's going to be this back and forth question. Okay, so thanks, we can target these companies. What about size? What about other industries? What about regions? Alex, what about you? What do you think?
Everything you told, makes perfect sense. I just want to add that this is a real one. That's a real ICP. And then there was the ICP from the client, and that he provided us with before the onboarding. And then during the onboarding, the actual ICP changed drastically because, as Josh just said, we figured out, okay, which is top one title, top two, top three, then industries, then sizes, and a lot of other criteria. Even then, while discussing with the client, we figure out that there is a additional data points that we could add, some data intelligence, and the client just didn't think about it. He thought that, okay, all these companies theoretically could be a fit. Let's just email them all. And with more or less same approach, because the shotgun approach, actually, and somebody asked in the chat, what is shotgun approach? This is just approach when you have the same template for all the titles on all the industries, and you just set it, hoping for best, but it's not going to happen. I'm not telling that with this ICP, and if you're adding all the possible companies from that the client needs, it's not going to work. It's just going to work really not that good compared to if you just make it more granular and just figure out, okay, maybe for the beginning, let's start with the chief marketing officer companies, in California or something else. And then at least there you have a good start and not just this shotgun approach that a lot of people tend to use.
Yeah. And a rule that I live by is, starting off as precise as you can be. With ICP, if you're not branching out later, you should start at least knowing very specifically who you want to target, because depending upon what you're selling as well, that could completely be important to let a vendor know, okay, if you're trying to sell say any kind of video production, you're probably not going to want to reach out to somebody in finance. So starting off precise, but then also being flexible to branch out if there is a need. So templates, this is probably my favorite part of what we do. I love templates. I love looking at them, reading them. But anyways, templates being salesy, I'm sure that all of you have one time or another received an email that starts off with a very typical something like top reasons why you need our service. And then they say, hi, I am blank and blank from this company. Wanted to just reach out to let you know that you're missing out on so much. Being salesy right off the bat, it's just one of the worst ways to reach anyone. You do want people to understand that the email is a sales email, but you don't want them to think it's just one more typical sales email that ends up going in the spam or in your trash. Just knowing how to start off, and we'll be talking about this a little bit later as well, but knowing how to start off your email is very important. And so being salesy and then focusing on yourself instead of addressing the prospect's pains or needs. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it from the side of the prospect, if you put yourself in their shoes, you think, okay, would I rather have an email saying, we're so cool, you need to work with us, here's what we can do, this, that, or would you actually respond or have a higher chance of responding if someone says, are your pain points A, B, C, or D? And one of the pain points actually fits what you're really feeling. And you're like, that really does, that is my pain point. That's what I feel right now. And then you're already more interested. Maybe you don't actually respond, but imagine if you get a prospect that each single pain point is actually a pain point of theirs. Then they're just like, wow, this guy just like somehow hacked my computer, hacked my life, found out this is what I'm going through right now. I need this. And then he's going to be all, yes, I need this. Let's hop on a call. So yeah, I can't stress how much it is important not to just make an email only about yourself and about your offering, but to really try and reach a prospect, knowing and understanding that they are a priority for you. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
And I have a funny story. We don't have that much time, but sometimes weirdly kind of working with clients, while working with clients, I saw that like on Monday, let's say David just tells me, hey, look what email I've got. This is a really bad one. It was huge, prolix, without a proper CTA, a call to action. It didn't talk about my company, it did talk about his company, just bragging basically. I hate it. I would never respond back. And then 1 week after, when we were discussing the strategy, David says to me, I have a great new approach. And you believe me or not, he came up with a huge email, the same logic. And then he just explained it the following. He told that, hey, this is my company and I want to highlight all the features. I want to highlight pricing. I want to highlight some updates that we have. And it kind of makes sense, but then he didn't think that the prospect he's going to be targeting is going to behave as he behaved like a week ago. Like, I don't even want to read it. If I see it's that big and it doesn't talk about me, about my pain points, about something that they relates to me and doesn't have a CTA, even though I want to talk about my company, I want to show how great we are. Still, remember about hooks and remember that it should be kind of readable. Remember that it should the pace we're currently living and people, the decision makers you're targeting, they get dozens of emails daily, and your storytelling is great. It's the best one in the market, but they will not even notice your email because they have another 10 and yours is the biggest one, the longest one. So that's why kind of focus on yourself, instead of addressing the prospect pain needs. Everyone kind of understands this, but still what I'm seeing is that at the very end, I'm going to add one more sentence and one more paragraph and one more sentence. And then at the end, the same email he would never kind of open. And then people adding to this, they add links and files and kind of a lot of attachments. It does make sense, even from kind of readability standpoint, but sometimes you could theoretically add a link, but the problem is like Google strictens their policies on a monthly, on a yearly basis. So it's going to kill your domain and kill your mailbox. There are some exceptions when there is kind of an audience, maybe a few dozens of people, but I want to have like hundreds of people that email on a daily basis. For sure, adding links and files, I would not advise doing that. I would rather advise like adding numbers, case studies. That's that's the information with yourself you want to add. And about creating long, hard-read paragraphs, we just talked about that. Not being yourself, same. Confidence in your own offering. I know Josh discussed it recently for one of your clients, so maybe you can add here.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a couple words that are parasite words. So 7 and 8 kind of work together. If you think about it, if you get an email from someone and they say, I believe we could be a good fit, or I think we can help you, it doesn't show any confidence. It doesn't show any urgency. It doesn't show any reason for them to believe, wow, I really want this, especially when it comes to urgency. When you're showing something how confident you are in what you're selling, your potential to close deals, not only in emails, but also on the demos themselves, is a big factor. And if you're on the call, so imagine we're kind of switching over here to the demo. Imagine you're on the call and you're talking and you're like, well, this is what we do. This is how it works. And I mean, it's kind of cool. That's not going to work. No one's going to feel like, wow, I need this. And that's essentially the goal, is to help a prospect understand that they really do need something. And to do that, being confident and understanding, instead of using words like I believe, I think, I hope, I guess, you can use words like I know, I guarantee, I'll make it worth your time. Those are just right off the bat showing them that, one, you have something to talk about. 2, you believe in what you have to talk about. And 3, there's a high chance that they really do need this, and it'll make things work so much better for them. And so, yeah, kind of matching point 1 is point 9, starting a paragraph off too salesy. So if you didn't know this, you probably have seen this, but you just didn't actually pay much attention to it. This has happened with me. This has happened with a lot of my colleagues. This has happened with a lot of people. But when you get an email from someone else, when you get the email, you would see the subject line, right? So you'll see what the main topic is. And then you'll actually see this first sentence of the first paragraph. So you'll probably see, hi, Josh, I am ABC, reaching out from ABC company, wanting to connect with you. If you're starting off your first paragraph, your first sentence with something that right off the bat says, this is a sales email, your chances for, one, getting even your open rates is a lot lower. So this is one of those cases when your subject lines usually refer to your open rates. If you've got a good subject line, your open rates are good. So you see people are opening. If you've got a bad reply rate, it means you're getting people to open your emails, but you're not getting people to respond. And so even in this situation, the first sentence of your body, instead of the subject line, is actually working against or for your subject line. And so this is something that you have to take into consideration. And if you think about it, next time you open your email, just look at it and just see. And maybe if it's on a mobile device, it might be harder to see. But if you go to your computer, I guarantee you're going to see in your mailbox, you're going to see one of these emails, and you're going to be like, hey, I'd never really paid attention to that, but now I see that. Maybe this will help me to make a better body of my email for my next time that I'm doing outreach. So yeah, templates. So an example of a bad template. Oh, where do we begin?
Okay, subject line. We don't have that much time to kind of look through, kind of like peruse every aspect why it's bad. But again, that's a real one. That's a real template. And like first, I'll start with subject lines. It's long, and like long story short, would you ever believe that this template was crafted kind of manually with all these capital letters and like 7 words in the first subject line A, without any variable, not talking about your company? So subject line right off the bat, not good. Then first sentence, that's what we're talking about, like really salesy. Then, as you can see, like client name here, this variable that we have client name, this is the name of the company that they shared with us this template kind of before we tweaked it our way. And then kind of, as you can see, there is no like company name variable, the company you're targeting. They are only talking about ourselves. So we are virtual pediatric behavioral care provider. We are doing this, we are doing that, et cetera, et cetera. And the call to action at the very end is, want to learn more? So just send us kind of time, date, and we'll take it from there. So really, it doesn't push you to respond back. So maybe even if you love the template, I didn't, but if I loved it, I would just think, okay, that's interesting. I'll probably send the time options later. And you forget about that. You never respond back because they don't propose you any kind of, what about like tomorrow? What about Monday? Do you have any preferences next week? So you think, okay, maybe I'm gonna respond back one day, but you forget and then you never respond back. Josh, you have something to add?
Yeah. So, and also an interesting thing is, if you look at the very last sentence, want to learn more, send us your preferred meeting date, time, and we'll take it from there. So this in itself is one of those situations where you're causing your prospect to think and do more than he should be doing, he or she should be doing. So one, you're actually asking a question, which is totally fine. Actually using at least one question, maximum two in a template, that's pretty good. I would try and always keep at least just one question, but you're asking a question and then you're giving them a task. So they have to think, okay, do I want to learn more? And I have to find time. It just causes extra work for the prospect. They're thinking, okay, now I have to go look at my calendar, which they're not going to do. Or they're going to think maybe when I find 15 minutes, and then like Alex mentioned, they're going to remember, oh, I have this other meeting, and then they completely forget about it because essentially they're not interested. They don't see anything about themselves. They only see what you're writing about your own company, and then you're giving them a task to do. So we did sum up some of the different things that we evaluated from this bad template, which was too much information spread out in multiple paragraphs. So as you can see, it's quite a long email in general. It doesn't look very long, but this third one right here, this third paragraph, it'll take you some time to read through it and to actually understand what's going on. So instead of asking the prospect to offer a time, ask if a certain time works. If not, he will respond, no, how about time instead? Feeling that he has to work on when to find time in his calendar. So essentially, if you're asking him to find time, it's just a task for him. But if you're proposing a time, it's somehow psychologically easier to say, sorry, that time doesn't work for me. How about this? Because you're in a sense, you're showing that you're wanting to save his time, his or her time. You want to make them understand that you want to make this email as simple as it is, so that they only have to say yes, no, or how about this time? Or of course, if it's not a very good email, no, go away. And then not much confidence in the template, and it almost comes off as beggy or buggy. I just reading the template the very first time, I was thinking, this really does look like it's like, please look at what we do. This is what we do. This is how we can help you. And that's not how you want to come off in an email. That's not how you want to come off in any kind of template. You want to show the just straight confidence that you do have, and show that, okay, this is something that I know I can do. But let me talk about that more on the demo. Let me go ahead and talk a little bit about you and what might be what you're going through, and then get on to what I can do and how I can help you. And then, yeah, once again, the first paragraph sounds very, very, very salesy. So not thinking about deliverability. This is something that is overlooked way too often. And this is something that shouldn't be overlooked way too often, because there's a lot to play when you think about, okay, I've got a great template. I've got my ICP all set up. I've got a strategy. Let's just use the shotgun approach. Let's just try everything. But there's so many things that you're not taking into consideration. You're not thinking about actually doing the ramp up period, which means getting your limits to start low and then go more and more and more. Because if you think about it logically, imagine you start outreach and you create a new email for this outreach specifically. And right on the first day, you just have a fresh brand new email address and you send out 1,000 emails. Google is going to be, blinking its eyes thinking, okay, that's quite a lot of stuff happening from one email that's just now made. So skipping this is very dangerous, because you're automatically going to have issues with your domain and with your mailbox. You're going to have a lot more trouble than getting yourself back into what we would say good, instead of being in maintenance or in spam. So skipping the ramp up period is it's one of those things that you don't want to do.
Sure. And then before I add something about the deliverability, Gabe asked if we're going to have the example of kind of good email. And yes, at the end of the webinar, we're going to have an example of a good email. Even better, we're going to have an example of like bad template and how we tweaked it, making sure it's going to bring some responses and higher open rate. And to make sure we have enough time to check it later, I'll just quickly finish up with this deliverability. So basically, Google is strengthening their policies on a as I've told, on a monthly and a yearly basis. So with every year, it becomes more and more complicated to add any links, any attachments, send a lot of emails from one mailbox. Now it's almost impossible to create a mailbox. And as Josh said, just send like 500 emails right away. You're going to be blacklisted, maybe mailbox not going to be blocked, but then your chances to get a response or to land into inbox is almost zero. You should track daily limits, not create huge email sequences. And as I've said, adding anything, even your signature actually is important. So when your signature has some pictures, phone numbers, location, address, and the more links it has, the more suspicious for Google it is. So anything like this, you should get rid of this, or if it's really, really needed, minimize it as much as possible.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so we did actually prepare a poll for you all today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up, and you should see it on your screens. It's pretty simple. You just have, one question, and you can choose what you believe from your experience is the most important factor to focus on before starting any outreach. So we're going to give you about a minute so that we can keep going, but here you go. So Alex, while we're waiting, how did you end up getting in the industry? What was your main spark, I guess, that said, you know what, I want to do this?
Actually, the industry itself really changed. At the beginning, it looked like something I didn't know at all. I just started doing this, and even with this deliverability, that's going to be a good example. Nobody had a clue what's happening, and then we had the first client back, a few years ago, like maybe 7 years ago, for whom with a great value proposition, with a really good idea of the approach, and nothing worked. And then suddenly, some of us just told that, hey, probably there is something with the blacklist or mailbox. We didn't even know something this existed. So then just looking where it was like a few years ago, and now the industry is evolving so fast. So we're constantly trying to adopt and adjust to whatever happens. But I felt at the beginning that this is something new, and this is something that not many people do properly, and not only the deliverability. So that's why it was a no-brainer. So I want to be best in it, and I want to make sure that I can create approaches and can sell dozens of products, and the way that I feel like it's gonna be feasible.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to give maybe another 30 seconds before we close the poll, and then we'll talk about what the most common answer was. So yeah, it was interesting. I just found myself popping up in this industry. I didn't even realize it. I started actually with sales. I did 3 years of sales, and then transferred over to account management. And it's definitely been fun. It's been something that's very interesting. And it's definitely something that I would say keeps you on your toes, because there's so much stuff to learn. There's so many things that change over so much time. So always being ready and always being flexible is definitely something that I believe is very important.
Yeah, and Steven asks if we're going to have a recording. Yeah, sure. We're going to have it. And Josh, do you have the results of the poll?
I do. So I'm going to go ahead and share these results. So we have 30 out of 47 votes for overall strategy, 4 out of 47 for great templates, 5 out of 47 for precise lead research, and then 8 for email deliverability preparation. So yeah, I would say that all of these are definitely important to focus on. Overall strategy, if it's done correctly, it basically includes all of these. So if you go into any kind of a strategic planning session, you want to understand that, okay, we're not just going to be focusing on research and then everything else we'll just make do with, or the same thing with great templates. Yeah, we've got a great set of templates. Who are we reaching out to? Let's write every single person in the world. It doesn't matter. Or just, we've got everything set up. Let's just send out as many emails as possible. Yeah. Overall strategy has to be broad. It has to have an understanding of every single moving part, because if one moving part falls out of line, just like a gear, the whole gear stops and it just breaks. And then you have to go back and do cleanup. What are your thoughts, Alex?
Yeah, I agree. I'm just thinking that we have many more slides to show, so maybe we can go further just to make sure we can cover everything we have. And we also have questions we want to respond at the end, so maybe we should move further.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so basic rules. Thinking about your strategy. We pretty much summed that up. It's important to have a strategy. You want to think long-term, not only just short-term. Setting up your domain and mailboxes, be sure and do that, please. It will help your results. It will help your domain, and your domain will be very thankful. Working with statistics, yes, you do always want to work with statistics. You want to understand this works, this doesn't work, this works better than this. A/B testing, if you don't know what it is, it's when you try two things side by side and you're seeing which one works better, so that then you can shut one thing off and continue with the other one working. Preparing a qualified base of leads. Yes, you want to have leads that will be fruitful for you. If you're reaching out to a bunch of people and you get a bunch of bounces, it's not going to result in anything positive. Crafting concise templates with a clear value prop and call to action. We also pretty much talked about that, but it is important that you do have your offering in a way that it's not focused on you, but on how you can help, maybe pain points, maybe something that they've got to adjust with. Maybe there's some new kind of world change that's happening, and you're trying to show them you understand about what everything is going on. So, and then putting yourself in the shoes of the prospect. Yeah. If you think about how I'd like to be reached out to, that's how it should work. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, that's the case I brought up. So when you think only how to show your offering and your service, your product, then just forget that there is somebody behind, and then somebody should read it and respond back, and it should be readable and concise and straight to the point.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, how to craft a good template. So essentially, having a subject line that is not very long, usually 3 to 4 words, is really good. Structuring your email correctly, knowing where to put things, that's pretty much the base minimum. I think most of us, if not all of us, know how to construct a email, but it is important to include the CTA. Please don't forget about that. And please try to keep your CTAs clear. Be precise. The shorter, the better. No one has time to read long emails. It's just the way it is. So if it's very clear, very short, if it can be read in less than 30 seconds or a minute, that's usually really, really good. Using a sharp call to action as well, preferably with a question that requires a simple yes or no response. I actually have a template that I've used a lot, and I really enjoy using this. And I'll just kind of give this out here as a free maybe life hack. Maybe this will work for you. When you have, maybe one of the last emails in your sequence, you reach out to the prospect and say, hey, I've reached out to you a couple of times, haven't heard it back from you yet. Would you mind just responding with the number that reflects your current situation? And then just very clearly say, 1, I'm interested, but I don't have time now. Let's talk later. 2, I'm not interested. Please take me off your list. 3, I'd like to be interested, but please send me more information. Or 4, you know what? Let's hop on a call right now. And then the prospect only has to do one thing, 1 letter, and that's it, 1 number, and that's it. And they can right away get an answer to you that helps you and your team not waste time on somebody that might not end up ever responding, but it also gives them the privilege of only having to type 1 little number. So not asking multiple questions and evaluating the pain points that match who you write to. We already talked about that, but yeah, don't write a finance person with pain points that marketing people are going through. Make sure that things line up correctly, and keeping the focus on how you can help the prospect not make more sales and more money. Yes, of course, you want to make more sales and more money, but you want to show the prospect, which if it's done correctly, and if this is, true for everybody, it is important to understand that the longer relationship you have, it's longer revenue for both you and your potential client. If you're just thinking about making a sale right now, prospects can see that, they can feel, okay, this guy just wants to make money off me. So actually showing that you do care and you want to build a long relationship that'll be year after year after year, understand how to reach out to them properly so that you're not just coming off as, hey, I want to make more commission this year. Let's have a call. So.
Yeah, and I want to add to that approach with the questions and then answers like 1, 2, 3. Even though, you should not expect that from these you will convert a lot of kind of hot responses and appointments. Still, kind of the idea of that last email kind of in the sequence is rather kind of understand why they're not responding back. So if this is an open question, like, could you please tell me, why you're not responding back? Is this timing or something else? Then the chances are really low. Somebody will tell, hey, I didn't respond back because, this is like Q4 and it's better to reach out in Q1, or the timing issue, budget issue, something else. But then if you give them options, at least if they respond, a lot of them respond like budget, then kind of you don't convert them to appointments, but you then re-strategize and rethink who you're emailing and what email template you use. So it can be used just for like data gathering, and open question can be used for data gathering, but not really successfully.
Yeah. And sometimes if you reach out to a prospect with one offering, there might be another offering that you have that you don't mention, and that's actually an offering that was what they actually need. So using a re-engage campaign is also important. You can then come back and say, hey, we reached out to you about this offering. Here's what else we do. Maybe something else fits you better. And that works a lot of the time as well, because they're like, wow, you should have just started off with that. Let's hop on a call. And so, yeah. So how to properly choose your ICP at the beginning. Narrowing it down as much as possible. As Alex and I mentioned multiple times, don't get too broad. Don't just give us, or any company. We want to reach out to any software company. Okay, what size, where, which titles? Yeah, be realistic and be narrow, and then be flexible to branch out. So think about what variables you can personalize. So a variable, if you don't know, this is something that you can put into your template that would automatically track from your master sheet or from your internal database of lead information that will pull information, whatever you'd like it to be. So first name, company name, industry, it can be whatever you want it to be. So it would actually pull their information into the template to make it more personalized so that you don't actually have to write 1,000 personal emails every single time. You can make it so that it works automated, but actually pulling in personal information for each prospect. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I would highlight from here. So these all make sense. I just want to highlight, like, be realistic and know your TAM. So it's all about, if your total amenable market universe of leads is just a few hundred people, maybe then you want to reach out really in a personalized manner. Same with being realistic. If you want to have like some Fortune 500 companies as your clients, but then you don't have any case studies and prove your expertise. You never even worked with the United States, for example. So maybe at the beginning you should rethink and come up with something that, let's say you have some clients in Germany in like manufacturing, and then it just better start there, and then depending on how your outreach goes, then maybe expand the criteria. And past experiences, even if you've never done any outreach, you don't know what the ICP may look like, still you have conversations with prospects, you were selling, you have some maybe some conferences, maybe you just have some marketing campaigns. All the info you gathered can be useful for your cold outreach as well.
Yeah. By the way, if you don't know what TAM stands for, we actually have a YouTube video about it. So be sure and check it out on our YouTube. Okay, how to work with statistics and testing. Test one thing at a time. If you test multiple things, it's impossible to understand what wasn't working or what is working. So yeah, please do that. It'll help. Having a deadline to cut off subject lines, templates, and approaches that don't work. Once again, as we mentioned, usually taking like a week or a week and a half. It can depend on, the limit of how many people you're reaching out to in a day, in a week, in a month. So that can vary, but yeah, it is important to set deadlines and understand, okay, after this point, we understand this isn't working. We need to change something. So don't just keep doing the same thing over and over again, hoping it will work. Analyzing negative responses. Once again, we talked about that. It is important to understand what the responses are. What are they saying? If they're saying it's not my area, maybe that means you need to reach out to a different title in the same industry. Working with forwards. This is very important. When someone says you shouldn't be reaching out to me, you should be reaching out to this person. There's a list of different things that we could talk about. Unfortunately, we don't have the time for that. But one of the things that really works is saying, thanks for that. Thanks for letting me know how I should reach out to. Would you mind making a formal introduction so that he understands that we've already been speaking? One, this gives you a higher chance that his referral will actually respond to you. And two, it gives you the sense of, okay, these guys are very interested, because if so, he would just blow me off and say, you know what, I don't care. If you want to find him, find him. If you want to write him. And then, yeah, taking into consideration which aspect of the outreach, each aspect. Yes. So not just looking at templates, not just looking at leads. There's every single part of an outreach needs to be tested. Everything that you're doing needs to be looked at, analyzed. You need to understand what's working, what's not working. Maybe an industry is not working. Maybe a specific approach isn't working. Maybe you're reaching out to the wrong people and then you're falling in spam because you're reaching out with very just not relevant information to the wrong titles. Anything to add, Alex?
Oh, you covered it. I guess we're good.
There you go. And then how to work with responses. What do you think, Alex? What's your favorite from these four?
Alex, first, you should work with responses. So even
Yes.
unless this is something that remove me or unsubscribe, then for sure you want to ask them, even negatives. You want to ask them like, what was the reason you were telling no? When it would be the best time, to reconnect, maybe follow up with you. Those who might be interested, as written here, you also ask, like maybe I can send additional materials. Maybe if that's not you, maybe you can forward me to your colleague. Maybe I can follow up in a few months, et cetera, et cetera. So you should work with them. And just to summarize and to add something important that's not written here, you want to have some extension, or you want to have some kind of structure and logic working with responses. So either you use labels as kind of as they are in Google kind of G Suite, or you want to have some extensions. Like personally, we use Streak, extension called Streak. So it helps you to create like a pre-sales pipeline in the mailbox, and then create all those kind of pops up and notes and follow-ups and automatic sequences. And then you can label, and then you can have kind of a like pre-sales kind of CRM or some kind of outreach within your Gmail. It only works with Gmail, unfortunately, doesn't work with Outlook. But then there are some other tools for Outlook, and then it helps you to keep kind of track of all the responses you were gathering over the course of kind of weeks and months. So please use something to label them, because it's going to be a mess if you just play it by ear, respond back to whoever responds to you. You're not going to handle it properly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Okay, how to properly close deals. This is a little bit more deeper into the outreach process. So a couple different things, and this is what we've seen that have worked. So properly preparing for the call. If you don't know the prospect before you hop on the call, it just comes off as, I don't know anything about you. Talk to me, and that's definitely not important. You want to show them that you've done the work to prepare for the call, because they've taken the time out of their busy schedule to hop on the call. So, and also asking the right questions to understand what the prospect really needs, not just selling them everything. This is something that works really, really well when you're wanting to know for sure, okay, why is this prospect on this call with me? And if they're not giving you precise information in the responses before they schedule the call, it's important to ask them as many questions as you can, so that right off the bat, you understand, okay, this offering could be good. And then they say something else and you're like, oh, wait, this offering is even better. This is what they really need. And then towards the end of the call, they say, well, we've actually never done anything with this. That's kind of something we'd be interested in. And you're like, wait, that's what we specialize in. Let's do it. And so when you ask as many questions as you can, you don't just come off as, here's all the stuff that I do, buy something from me, but you're actually showing them, okay, this is what you really need. I understand that. This is what we can actually do. And it just comes off as a better result. Also setting the tone for the call and imply urgency with value tied in. Yes, it is important that you have a good tone with your calls for sure. You don't want it to be boring. You don't want the call to feel just kind of not prepared or just not structured well. Sending agendas is also something I would recommend doing before the call. If you send out an invite, just giving them an agenda. This is what we're going to do. But also letting them know that, hey, we'd love to work with you, and showing them that this isn't like you need to make a decision tomorrow, but we don't want to spend month after month hoping that we can actually close this deal. We'd like to know soon. So setting up a follow-up meeting on your first call is a very good tactic. While you're on the call right away, before you have to then get off the call and then play phone tag or email tag, just say towards the end of your call, hey, I'd like to set up a call so we can just follow up after you've talked with your team. I've talked with my team. When would that work? And right on the call, look at your calendars, set something up, and save yourself the time of having to play phone tag, email tag that can be weeks, months. Sending a recap with action items and deadlines for both parties. This is also super important because, as you probably know, on a lot of demos, there's a lot of information that's shared back and forth. And when you prepare and show that you actually understand and remember everything that was talked about, this shows your attention to detail. This shows your intention to work well. This shows that you really do want to have a long-lasting relationship, which is why you spent all of your time on the call focusing on what was said and what wasn't said, instead of thinking, oh, wait, what was I going to have for dinner tonight? It's important to show that you really do understand and remember what was talked about. And then also knowing who to follow up with. You got to have the right person to reach out to after the call, because maybe you might have a call with a CEO, but he's going to be impossible to reach out to. So just asking the simple question, so who should I follow up with after our call to just get updates? And he'll tell you, either me or someone else. And then making the decision-making process as easy and time efficient as possible. That would be very simple. Just be very upfront and say, this is what we can do. We'd love to work with you. If you have any questions, we can definitely set up another call and we can go into even more detail, because we didn't have a lot of time, which is why we go back to going to point 4. So let's set up another call where we can have any more question and answers, or maybe even more information shared. Alex, anything I didn't cover? What do you think?
You covered it good. Just want to add that why we have it here is because, like closing outbound meetings and inbound may be different. We're going to have a webinar from Michael, I guess, and a lot of information on the website about it. So this is important for all the type of sales calls you have. But if we're talking about kind of outbound, this is even more important than you can imagine. So please kind of stick to this, kind of depending on what your sales process is, but still don't forget about these rules.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Before we get on to our bonus, we have another poll. Just kind of wanted to pick your brains. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. If you have the time, go ahead and just let us know what your thought is.
And then while people are responding, I'll respond some questions. Like Kevin asked if we consider to unsubscribe, saying, I'm sorry, I must have given the wrong impression. This is a personal email. Yeah, we did it. Sometimes it works. That's actually the only, I would say this is the only kind of adequate response to unsubscribe you may come up with. If you're sure your email was personalized enough, and maybe just the person didn't read it carefully or something, then may work. Still be cautious, because again, after a person responded unsubscribe, you don't want to push it too much. But then this is an option. If you're sure your email was good enough, then I would try, especially if you don't have that many responses. So if you have other responses like forwards, contact later, potential meanings for sure, then I would not push unsubscribes. But the option that you just gave may work for sure. Then Julia asked using G Suite versus Outlook. Actually, both are good. We just prefer G Suite because we have extensions and tools and experience working with G Suite. Outlook is an option from a standpoint of deliverability. They're equal, so both can work. I would not tell that there is a tangible difference for G Suite or Outlook. Then David was asking about images, links, and buttons. So if we're talking, maybe there is kind of misunderstanding. If we're talking about like some newsletter, for sure, you want to add some content to there. If we're talking about like outreach strategy and these type of templates that we're talking about and this type of approach, I would not advise any images, buttons, or kind of links, maybe to one wave in your email sequence, maybe like third wave, fourth wave, one link, not hyperlink. Maybe yes, but then still should be cautious with that and check your kind of domain health on a weekly basis, maybe on a daily basis, because it can kill your reputation. And this is something you don't want to have.
Perfect. All right. Well, we got our poll results back. And so I'd like to just kind of comment. So essentially, it is important to understand what you're doing daily and what you're doing weekly, because if your list is not very large and you're only able to send maybe 50 or 100 emails in a week, your testing period could be longer, because you want to get essentially at least 300 prospects to go through the entire sequence to understand what's working, what's not working. Overall, if you're sending out at least maybe 100 emails a day to a couple hundred emails a day, usually a week and a half is more than enough time to understand something's working, something's not working.
I agree.
All right. Well, as we mentioned, we got a bonus today. So we wanted to look at some of the things that we've actually worked with. So this is an initial ICP that we got from a client, and this is one of the ones that we adjusted. So this ICP has target C-level only and states to target just California and Texas. We expanded the ICP to donation managers and D-level titles with donations in their job description. Because if you look at it, animal care nonprofits with up to 10 million in donations a month, most likely those titles that were originally listed wouldn't be the right titles to reach out to, just because they're not going to be specifically devoted to, responding to these kinds of emails. So any kind of donation titles, it's just a perfect fit. And that's pretty much right in front of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add that I know the story behind it, like really quickly. So what happened is that they wanted to start with California and Texas, and you may think, okay, this is narrow. This is what the guys were talking about for an hour, and then you can expand it. So what sense it makes? But actually, the idea was to kind of expand the geographical area, but actually kind of narrow it down in terms of who makes decision. So we did add kind of donation managers, because they were actually people responsible for this type of platforms that we needed. Then we're searching if they actually had a donation platform, if they have a button on the website, and then in that case, all the companies, even not from California and Texas, that the client believed should be the best fit, all the companies were fit. So we safely opened the whole you asked for the outreach, just narrowing down the titles, and then it brought a lot of results.
Yeah. And then also adding the current donation platform was a way that you could then personalize your emails with variables. So you can show them that you understand, you've done your due diligence, and you know that this is what platform they're on. And then you can also check if they have donation button on their website. That's, one more thing that you can make it more personalized. So. All right. So the client's template. I think I think we probably talked quite a bit about templates to understand right away from our experience and from what we were recommending, what is not right here. There's quite a lot to read, and that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, it's a lot. So this is what we came up with, much shorter, much more structured. It feels a lot easier to read. It looks prettier. And you're showing right off the bat, because if you're thinking about, you're reaching out to nonprofits. So you're saying, I'm looking for the right person to discuss fundraising efforts and donation form setup. So right off the bat, you're showing them, one, what they are wanting to talk about, what you're wanting to talk about, and you're actually giving them somebody else that you could potentially be referred to. Once again, talking back to how to do follow-ups and how to work with responses. If someone gives you a referral, you've got a better chance of getting a response. And obviously the subject line here is very short, and this is something that's actually worked very, very well for quite a long time. Alex, what else do you think we were able to bring to the table?
Yeah, it's, imagine you're emailing kind of me or Alex. Is this you or Josh who are responsible for implementation of whatever, like CMS systems or Belkins or finances or marketing or something else? So in that case, it really it's a good hook, because I know Josh. I know maybe they are really looking for some person at Belkins who is responsible for some specific kind of set of tasks or something, and it works good. And then, as you can see, the template is concise. We added numbers, then we added a concise follow-up wave, so it's much better than kind of that storytelling we had in the previous slide. And then we'll share the recording after the webinar, so you'll be able to see it. But this is one of the examples of templates for the same company, same value prop, just shaped and adjusted differently. And I can tell you that we had like dozens of appointments kind of monthly for this client.
Okay. All right. So we would like to have some time to just answer some questions. So please do leave any questions you got in our Q&A box.
We talked a little bit more, so we did have some questions I covered. Then Taylor was asking what's the effectiveness of multi-threading and multi-channel. So just kind of really long story short, so you can, multi-channel is good. You can add like cold calling. You can add, personally, I don't believe in cold calling, but if you want to just follow up, or, you have some responses, and then in the signature, you have their phone number, theoretically, and call, then you can add LinkedIn, obviously. What is important here, I believe it can be effective. It's not a must have, like LinkedIn plus email. Email itself works good. Just make sure you don't have overlap, because then when you're, emailing people and sending them LinkedIn messages can be super awkward when they already responded back. And usually I did see a lot of examples when it's not synchronized properly, because there is no way to make sure it's automatically stopped in LinkedIn or automatically stopped kind of in Gmail. So overlap is something I would advise thinking of. And questions of Julia, David, they responded back. Josh, you want to respond back to?
Yeah. So we had an anonymous attendee ask how to create not a salesy email when you still need to sell. There's a quote, and it goes like this: if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. Something that I've tested very often with multiple clients, and it's worked very well, is actually trying to come out with an approach of, would you mind taking a look at what I've got and sharing your opinion? And in this sense, you're still able to, in a way, just showcase what you can do. And instead of them thinking you just want to sell, you're showing them that you would like to have them view it and understand what you can offer, but in a different way. And this has worked so well. So that's something that I would recommend. You don't have to have a salesy email necessarily to sell. You can have something like we talked about, showing you pain points, talking about pain points, talking about ways to help prospect understand you don't want to just sell. You do want to sell, but that's not your main priority. Your main priority is to find a collaboration that will last for a long time, because you believe that your offering and their need are a perfect fit, which is, I believe any business should do that. So, yeah.
Then Steven is asking, how do you check if your domain is healthy? So there are plenty of checkers. I would advise Folderly, our own kind of product. That is one of the features of it is like checking your domain health, mailbox health. Why I cannot use picture in my email? Because then Folderly will tell you the truth that you're in spam and you're blacklisted. So please don't use pictures, because the chance somebody's going to mark you as spam is surely higher. And then the chance Google is going to consider you as a spammer is like 5 times higher than if you just send a plain text. David is asking, do we recommend some tools to extract emails? Yeah, we do. But the question is, I could have kind of unfolded, but this is a really long conversation. Better if you contact us and we can advise something. But a long story short, it's not only about kind of extracting, it's also then about like checking how valid they are. And kind of sometimes it's extracting like personal emails, and that's a totally different story. You don't want to mail people to their personal emails. So this is a long question, but yeah, there are tools. There are checkers, there are kind of tools for tracking even the content of your email and how spammy it is. So for all these kind of purposes, there are tools in the market that you can find, and we can advise which if you just contact us, and one of our research specialists will help you with this. How many follow-ups it is acceptable to send? I would say like 3-4 after intro email, and then there surely should be a pause. Then maybe 1 month, 2 months after you want to re-engage. But if you're engaging, like I would advise re-engaging with something substantial. It's not just, hey, it's me again, I'm bothering you like one more time. If something happened or something you didn't mention in your previous email, or there is some kind of timing is better, then you say, hey, since I last emailed you, there is a new feature kind of our product you may find beneficial. Or, hey, I just noticed you visited the conference in California and say blah, blah, blah. So for those cases, re-engagement works much better versus just saying, hey, me was the same pitch, same email again with another 4 emails.
Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah. And then Julia asked, are there any differences in wording when you target different industries and titles? Yes. I believe that it's very important before you do any kind of outreach. Even in different industries, some titles will be relevant to different things. So per se, one title in industry A might not do the same things or be responsible for the same things in industry B. So it's important to do any kind of prep work as you can in any kind of research, even just Googling what is let's say general manager at a steel manufacturing company do, anything like that. If you're wanting to know who you're supposed to reach out to and you have a rough idea, just Google what are their responsibilities? What do they do? Even you could even go to like a job search if someone's hiring and just look at what their responsibilities would be. And then you understand, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly who we should be reaching out to. So yes, you want to do your prep work, and you want to understand they are different in different industries, and you should be reaching out with, different wording specifically for them. Yes, we will be having the recording. Thank you. We are happy that you are here. Are Red's receipts or trackers worth it, or do they add to the spamminess of the email? Depending upon which platform you're using, you can actually track and see if an email was read, or if there was, a clicked, or how many times they've clicked. So depending upon what platform you're using, you should actually be able to have that, and that shouldn't affect the spamminess of the email.
General rule is like tracking opens and response rates depending on the tool, but most tools that are reliable, it will not influence your deliverability. Tracking click rate may depend, because first we don't want to add links. Second, it's like additional kind of tracker, but open rate, response rate, you can safely track with most of the tools. That's okay, because without it, you cannot judge how your template performs. So even if like 1 out of 100 emails maybe has a higher chance to go to spam because of this open rate tracking, without it, you're not able to make decisions on how it works or it doesn't.
And then why can't we add links everywhere? Spam. Yeah, pretty much sum it up in one word. What would you consider a good positive reply rate? This depends on who you're reaching out to. If you're reaching out to enterprise companies and you're really persistent on reaching out to higher, like C-level, especially titles, then a good response rate could be 3%. If you're reaching out to smaller companies, reaching out to somebody maybe just like a junior specialist of marketing, the response rate could be standard to be between anywhere from 5 to 15 and maybe even higher than that. But it just kind of depends on who you're reaching out to.
Yeah, and one of the last questions, like how we can add link if we really need to add link. And again, just making sure we're on the same page. If you're sending kind of like MailChimp or kind of some newsletter, HTML5 email, then for sure that's totally different. And this is not like a kind of semi-personalized approach we're talking about. But if you need to add link here, then as I said, one link to your email kind of sequence, or maybe 2 links for 5 emails, like a link every 2-3 emails is okay. If you track daily deliverability, if you track your domain health with Folderly or any other tool, if you track kind of how your specific mailbox is doing, and then may work. And for other emails in the chain where you don't want to add link because you don't want to add link everywhere, you can add an open question. Hey, if you're interested, I can share with you the link. And then the process responds back, and then you send the link. So that's like one of the options how you can avoid using the actual link, but just kind of sending it anyway. Because it's important that Google thinks you're a spammer when you're adding links to your cold outreach. But once somebody responded back, and you have some, back and forth with those guys, he asked you something, or even one word, then you can send pictures, links, PDFs, presentations, one-pagers, then it's okay. It's just important Google should see you have interaction. And once the prospect said, okay, give me more information, then you can send whatever, you should be kind of intelligent about it, but cautious, but you should say, you can send any PDFs or anything that you believe may be a fit. Okay, and we're already like 13 minutes over, so maybe we should wrap up. Last question, what is an ideal length of the first email outreach? How many words? Again, depends. You want to have like opening line, then 2-3 emails, your value proposition, and then like call to action with a question. And I would not advise bullet points. Again, I would not advise like big emails, but that's the general rule. May depend, but that's what we advise.
All right, perfect. Well, Alex, it's a pleasure. Thank you all for being here and listening to us. I know we have gone over a little bit, so kudos to all of you who are still listening to us chat. It's a pleasure for us to be able to share this insight. I hope some of this has found you right where you needed it to find. So yeah, it was a pleasure talking with all of you. And Alex, thank you so much for spending your time and sharing all your expertise.
Thanks, Josh. It was a pleasure, and we'll share the recording with everyone. So if you missed something, we'll surely follow up with the recording. And it should be on YouTube or on our website. So yeah, be sure to check it out. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye.